Chapter 13, Simon's Next Move. Simon left Grace's office, with a storm of emotions swirling inside him. He had tried to stay calm, to be understanding, but the thought of another man, a man from Grace's past, entering the picture made his blood boil. He wasn't the type to sit back and wait while someone else pursued the woman he cared about. But he also knew he couldn't push Grace into making a choice before she was ready. As he made his way back to his own office, Simon's mind raced with conflicting thoughts. Part of him wanted to confront Michael, to lay down his claim and make it clear that Grace wasn't available. But another part of him, the part that respected Grace's need for time, knew that this situation required a more subtle approach. By the time Simon reached his office, he had made a decision. He couldn't control Grace's feelings or the time she needed to figure them out, but he could control his actions. And if there was one thing he knew for sure, it was that he wasn't going to lose Grace without a fight. Over the next few days, Simon set a plan in motion. He didn't withdraw or pull away, as some might have expected. Instead, he doubled down on his efforts to show Grace exactly what a future with him could look like. He was patient, but deliberate, making sure that every interaction they had was meaningful, every moment they spent together a reminder of the connection they shared. It started with small gestures, bringing her coffee just the way she liked it, leaving thoughtful notes on her desk when she wasn't looking, and making sure she had everything she needed to navigate her busy days. He knew Grace appreciated these things, even if she didn't always say it. But Simon also knew that these small gestures alone wouldn't be enough. He needed to show her more. One evening, as Grace was wrapping up her work, Simon appeared at her door with a soft knock. She looked up, a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Simon," she said, her voice cautious but warm. "What's up?" "I was wondering if you might like to grab dinner with me," Simon replied, his tone casual but his heart racing. "Just as friends, of course. I know things are complicated right now, but I thought it might be nice to get out of the office for a bit." Grace hesitated, but only for a moment. "Dinner sounds nice." Simon smiled, relief washing over him. "Great. There's a place I know, not too far from here. I think you'll like it." The restaurant Simon had chosen was intimate but not overly romantic, a cozy little bistro with warm lighting and a menu full of comfort food. As they sat down, Simon made a point of steering the conversation away from anything heavy. He wanted this evening to be about enjoying each other's company, about reminding Grace of the ease and joy they shared. As the evening went on, Simon found himself relaxing more than he had in days. Grace seemed to be enjoying herself too, laughing at his jokes, her eyes sparkling in the soft light. For a little while, it felt like things were almost normal between them, like the tension and uncertainty had melted away. After dinner, Simon suggested a walk through a nearby park. The evening air was cool and crisp, and as they strolled along the tree-lined paths, Simon felt the tension that had been weighing on him begin to ease. He glanced over at Grace, who seemed deep in thought, her expression contemplative. "Penny for your thoughts?" Simon asked, his voice gentle. Grace smiled, a little wistful. "I was just thinking about how nice this is. It's been a while since I've felt this, relaxed." Simon nodded, his heart swelling with hope. "I'm glad. You deserve to feel this way more often." Grace looked at him, her eyes searching his. "Simon, I don't want you to think that I'm taking what we have for granted. I know how much you've been there for me, and it means more than I can say." Simon stopped walking, turning to face her fully. "Grace, I'm not here to pressure you. I care about you too much for that. But I need you to know that I'm serious about us, about what we could have together." Grace looked down, her expression conflicted. "I know, Simon. And that's what makes this so hard." Simon reached out, gently lifting her chin so she would meet his gaze. "Whatever happens, I'm not going to stop caring about you. But I also want you to know that I'm not going to step aside for anyone else. I believe in what we have, and I'm willing to fight for it." Grace's breath hitched slightly, the intensity in his eyes leaving her momentarily speechless. She could see how much this meant to him, how deeply he cared, and it made her heart ache with the knowledge that her indecision was causing him pain. But before she could respond, Simon continued, his voice softening. I'm not asking you to choose right now, Grace. I just want you to remember this, what we have, what we could build together. I want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Grace felt a lump form in her throat, the sincerity in his words tugging at her heart. She had never doubted Simon's feelings for her, but hearing him express them so openly, so vulnerably, made her realize just how much he had come to mean to her. Simon, she began, but he shook his head, a small smile playing on his lips. You don't have to say anything right now, he said, his tone reassuring. Just think about it, okay? Grace nodded, her emotions swirling. I will. I promise. They continued their walk in companionable silence, the night air cool against their skin. As they reached the end of the path, Simon turned to her once more, his expression thoughtful. Grace, I know I'm not the only one who cares about you, he said carefully, his voice steady. But I want you to know that whatever happens, I'm not going to let go easily. You're worth fighting for. Grace looked at him, her heart full of conflicting emotions. She knew Simon meant every word, and she felt a surge of warmth, of gratitude, for the way he had handled everything with such grace and understanding. I appreciate that more than you know, Simon, she said softly. As they parted ways for the evening, Simon watched her go, a determined resolve settling over him. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, especially with Michael back in the picture. But he also knew that he couldn't let fear or uncertainty hold him back. Simon was willing to fight for Grace, because in his heart, he knew she was worth every risk, every challenge. And he was prepared to do whatever it took to show her that the future they could build together was one worth choosing. Click follow for the next chapters.